Hey guys, welcome to our Sunday FX forecasting. I've got Elliot with me and we're going to be discussing the FX markets and also indices. It's going to be an exciting week ahead and we've got a lot to discuss, so we'll get started. We're going to start off and kick it off with technicals and then we'll go on about fundamentals, and we've got some big fundamental news to be watching, especially over this week and the next week, guys. So hopefully our video helps you a little bit with preparation for the markets. And overall, you have a great week. Don't forget to thumbs up, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy this content. So, starting off here, we have got Euro against the US dollar daily. Was overall predicting a downwards move last week. We kind of saw it for a few days to follow on, didn't we? And then we saw a retracement back to that support level. Now looking like it's turning into resistance. We still have our downwards move, the downwards trend here that we can see that's been starting for over the last week or so. Naturally, we're seeing now a retest of this support level, now resistance level. For me, this is almost like a picture-perfect setup. As long as this stays and rejects, I expect to see like the next leg down and hopefully see a nice sell-off going into this new trend that we're seeing on Euro against US dollar.
Yeah, it'd be interesting with everything that's going on, or the news we've seen this morning. So it's Friday here. Obviously, I mean, we'll talk about it more, but Trump's got COVID. So if we see any US dollar strength, bit of move, it's played as a safe haven, which could obviously cause us to move back down.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Well, let's cover fundamentals in a little bit.
Well, wait, you're asking my opinion.
So. Technical opinion.
Technical opinion, yeah. I mean, like you say, it's like you expect this to happen. You can't expect it just to drop off a cliff. A natural retracement and test of that previous support level, was probably likely to happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, as long as this holds, this level holds, then we're definitely still in a bearish market and looking for short sells.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. Let's have a look at the smaller time frames of what I'm looking at, what I'm watching. So I've drawn on here a couple of scenarios, both of them pointing to the downside. A couple of examples I expect to see on Euro against US dollar. I mean, looking at when the market was in a downwards move from last week, going into the last few days, we saw a couple of nice short sells here, assisted and plotted there with cluster, which was quite nice. Second one didn't get caught by cluster, but again, this is a primary example here of support now turning into resistance and then selling off back to lows, and then we got a final one here. And you can see where I've drawn the big X there, where the trend starts to change, giving us a big warning there that we don't want to be in short sells whilst the market's looking like it's going to reverse. And we've kind of seen that. We've seen this pullback that we're seeing on the daily time frames coming up here now, and we're looking on Euro US dollar here now to on the smaller time frames to start seeing some weakness coming in, so that we can start preparing to get ready for when the shorts come in play. So ideally we want to start seeing this now break down, start making lower highs, ideally start rejecting levels like this that we can see in this example before joining the markets for a short sell, and hopefully by that point the moving averages have crossed down as well to help us with our multiple time frame analysis.
Yeah, I agree. I'd definitely like to see a break of that 1.17 level, which I have highlighted on the chart here.
Yeah.
That line there, yeah. I'd like to say maybe a breakthrough and then a retest, rejection of that level before entering in shorts.
Yeah.
Since it's broken that level, it's tested it twice. We are trading below the UK pivot today. However, I'd like to see a break and sort of a rejection off that level.
Yeah, I mean it was yesterday's S1 level, right, and today's today's S2 level. So it's all around this sort of support level here. Anything seeing of this sort of zone getting broken down would give us a little bit more confidence to see some Euro against US dollar weakness. So that's what we're waiting for before we actually take any positions here on euro against the dollar. So that's our sort of analysis on euro dollar. Overall, we're still bearish, but we're waiting for a confirmation on the lower time frames, such as 15 minutes, to get a break of that major support level there before we look at placing any short trades throughout this week. Let's move on to our favourite, which is pound against the US dollar. So pound against the US dollar, pretty similar scenario again on the daily here, where we've seen price have that retracement back to the moving averages, also that resistance level / previous high that we've seen there on the daily. It's something that I believe that we're going to hopefully see some sort of rejection off of this level and come back down. It's been an absolute major choppy week, which I'm sure Elliot will be covering on some of the fundamentals later, with everything that's been going on between the UK and the Eurozone, and definitely something that we want to be watching over the next couple of weeks, and well, with our deadline of a month on some of the news that's coming out. And if you want to add there on the daily, or should we drop down to the 15 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, again, I like these whole numbers, and that sort of area we're talking about is 1.3. So yeah, it seems to be quite a key level in this market at the moment. So any rejection of that, again, looking for shorts whilst being mindful of the news that's coming out.
Yeah, it's very news driven at the moment, and that's why we're seeing a lot of choppiness on pounds. Let's have a look at the 15 minutes to see what we can see on there. So we've got some levels that we've drawn on here. This is the back end of last week that we can see. Nice little bit of resistance there. We can see where price was being rejected and selling off down into this sort of choppy market. Was trading below the pivot point over here. We saw a break above the pivot, showing that there was more buyers coming back in. Stayed above that pivot again, causing a bit more choppiness before we saw the trend change there on the 15 minutes to go to the upside. And then we've seen a new support level, and we've also seen price today trading near its weekly high, and creating a resistance level there off of its high. So again, a couple of scenarios I've drawn here of a little bit of a rally up to the highs, followed by a sell-off and then gradually coming back down, or a complete move down before we approach this level here. And that level there is what, 1.28, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this level here that we're watching, I've drawn this nice little block on. You can see that we've got some support quite significant around here as well, and this is all in the respect of this 1.28 whole number level that we're going to be keeping a close eye on this week. We want to be seeing that price break through this quite aggressively, and then hopefully retest from the below side of that to show that it's now resistance, and we're looking to make a move down. I mean, with this choppiness that we've seen here, you can see that it's just the moving averages are starting to cross over, but with all this spiky behaviour that we're seeing from the volatile news that we've had over yesterday and today, who knows where it's going to go. So overall, again, sitting on the sidelines, hands are firmly not on the trigger at this moment in time, waiting for a break of 1.28 before I consider taking any short trades on pound against the US dollar. Anything you'd like to add there?
Yeah, so these swings that we talked about on Thursday, it's almost a 200-point swing that we saw in around just over an hour. These aren't small moves for cable, so definitely, one, if you're trading, to there's a number of ways you can trade this. Maybe don't be greedy, I'd say, because your trade, if you got a short, for example, on Thursday around this level, you just go up to there, just to the left of that, you could have been trying to hold the break below 1.28. I mean, after so it just comes down nicely, hits that sort of support level. You may have been thinking, okay, I'm going to target last week's lows around 1.27, and then within an hour you're in a loss basically. So, if you are going to trade this range, if you're going to try and sell off the top and buy off the bottom, then I'll just be quite stringent and watch the chart, and if it starts reversing, then cut your profits. Rather than trying to target a larger move. However, if it does, like we're looking for, break back below 1.28, then you could see a nice move back down towards last week's lows.
Yeah, definitely. From a sentiment point side as well, there's a lot of talk out there that a lot of hedge fund managers are looking for general weakness in the pound all the way up until end of January on Brexit talks, with all of the news coming out. So the word on the street, so to speak, is shorting into pound and seeing it fade back down to the downside when we're seeing these sort of spikes upwards. So these are all opportunities here for large traders, institutions, hedge funds, and looking to short into these rallies and take advantage of those movements.
I think for me as well, definitely, unless it breaks and holds above 1.3, I'm not, I'm staying short.
Yeah, 100%. Me, obviously, I like trading with moving averages. So on the hourly, we just switched over to the upside. So again, just waiting for that break to come back down below 1.28, get everything in line on all the time frames, and then look to enjoy, hopefully, a nice descent back down to last week's lows. So again, sitting on our hands on pound against the US dollar, waiting for that firm break of 1.28. Shall we head over to US dollar yen? Yep. So if you recall in our last week's episode, we'll give you a flashback now. I've got two lines on the chart here of where I think price is going. I think we might see a little bit more of buying coming in, but I don't think it will be long-lived. I think we'll see it sell off again. Our prediction came true on US dollar against the Japanese yen. We saw obviously price respect this 104 level, and the prediction was that price would come back up here, form a consolidation, and then start selling off. Actually, so we're spot on that prediction, which is nice to see. But overall, we're seeing US dollar yen slowly get weaker and weaker as the week goes on. You can see price here forming those lower highs there on the daily as we're seeing weakness come back in. It's going to be very interesting. Again, we're still watching that 104 level. Definitely will be looking at short positions throughout now, especially with my hands not on the trigger on euro dollar or pound dollar. But I'll be expecting to take some short trades on US dollar yen. Obviously cautious back down to this 104 level, but I think we might actually see a break of that. I might think we might see a break of 104 to the downside. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, let's have a look at the smaller time frame on US dollar against the Japanese yen. So, I mean, it's pretty aggressive on that. We saw, as you can see over the days it's going, you've got some great cluster entries there actually to the upside that we can see as price was rallying on that retracement back to forming that higher time frame pullback that was just discussing there on the daily. But when we're looking at that, we can see this sort of trend line in here coming all the way up, showing us throughout last week and going into this week, an upwards movement. And then all of a sudden today, on that announcement that we saw from Donald Trump catching COVID, and the First Lady as well, Melania, we can see that was a shock to the market, and we saw an absolute strong sell-off going all the way through S3 down to forming a weekly low price there. And I think that could be the start of the move we see now to set the trend for the rest of this week going. I expect to see a retracement to come back up to those levels that we've seen here before we then see price continue to sell off. I don't think we're going to see price just drop here from this sharp decline. I would expect a little bit of momentum to come back into the upside and then look to join in on short sells for the remaining of this week to come. So out of all of the three currencies that I'm looking at, two I'm waiting for levels to be broken. In the meantime, I'm waiting for a retracement on US dollar yen before I can start short selling into this, and keeping my eyes on that 104 level. But overall, that's my technical analysis for you on what I'm looking at this week. I hope that helps you. I'm going to be handing over to Elliot now, who's going to be covering the indices and the fundamentals for FX as well, of what we'll be keeping an eye on.
Obviously, woke up this morning, it's Friday, to the news that Trump's contracted COVID. What needs to be said really? sort of had it coming. Really, I think he's been the opposite to cautious, I'd say. But yeah, massive deal for the markets. Just adds more uncertainty. Loads of questions. Is his health going to deteriorate? He's high risk. He's over 70. I think he's technically obese. So he's got, he's in this high risk category where, he's going to be towards the higher end of the death rate if he gets it badly. Obviously, we saw Boris Johnson have it. He went into intensive care, didn't he? And made a full recovery. So as of now, obviously he's confirmed he has it, but we don't know how he's going to react to it. He might be absolutely fine, which would be an interesting thing in itself, especially to see what he'll come out and say if he does get over it without any sort of major health scare.
Yeah, definitely something to keep an eye out on. I think this will be a great eye opener, I think, for the world and America. Again, like everyone was turning towards Boris to see what kind of how's he going to be after COVID. Is he going to be the same sort of person? Because obviously they're saying that there's lasting effects, and we've seen that on different podcasts actually talking about the lasting effects that we've seen. But it'd be interesting to see what actually happens with someone so public and of his sort of age. It's probably the most public person in that age category that we'll be able to sort of track, I suppose, won't we?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, interesting. But before that, if we go back a few days, so if we're talking equities, we saw Friday a nice relief rally after the big sell-off on sort of we had through Wednesday, Thursday, Friday morning. Friday afternoon came and we saw quite strong moves that followed into Monday morning towards Monday afternoon. We then had quite a strong sort of sell-off, more of a retracement, I'd say, back in towards Wednesday morning, which then saw the ADP employment numbers come out of the US around 1:15 on Wednesday, which were, decent, better than expected, and by quite a big upside number we saw there. This sort of coincided with the resumption of fiscal US stimulus deal talks. So Mnuchin and Pelosi were confirmed to have a meeting on Wednesday afternoon or US morning with the expectations that they'd reach an agreement. This caused, again, a nice big 1.5% move in US markets, sort of coincided with those better than expected employment numbers. So, this was driving the recovery. Dow was recovering back towards those levels of 28,000. And then, obviously, overnight, the Trump COVID hits, and obviously that's going to, instantly impact equity markets, risk off, uncertainty, like we said. What does that mean? We saw quite a sharp 2% sell-off, around 2%. So yeah, it's going to be interesting going forward what happens with that. Looking over the UK, again, we've had positive and negative news come out regarding Brexit, which has caused those swings we talked about on cable. And obviously it's been confirmed that Brussels have launched a Brexit lawsuit against the UK. So yeah, interesting times. So like I say, we saw the sort of strong recovery back off this level that we saw tested on sort of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday last week, down the lows around 26,600. We then saw Friday afternoon into Monday, strong rally. We then saw this pullback, but still buyers were in control. We were making higher highs and higher lows. And then obviously that's what I'm saying, there's where the ADP and the stimulus meeting sort of happened and caused that large rally. We then saw the news that they hadn't reached a deal on the stimulus, which caused this sort of sell-off here, this 400-point sell-off. But then that was sort of overnight erased again, and it made its way higher, and it was just sort of moving sideways throughout Thursday. So I was predicting, this is sort of Thursday afternoon, I was predicting a pullback back towards that level and then a move higher, sort of keep this trend line that we've seen forming intact. However, I'm still cautious of anything very news sensitive the markets at the moment, stimulus, the election, and obviously now with Trump with COVID.
Yeah, where's Dow at the moment?
So next slide. So from what we saw, it did come back down here, test this level. So yeah, we did see after that initial 28,000 mid test, we did see a slight pullback. It was then again consolidating towards the US close. And then, however, obviously overnight the news hit that Trump had COVID, and we saw quite a large sell-off. And then sort of this morning we've seen a bit of a consolidation, a stall in sort of the market to see what's going to happen next, waiting for more news to come out, a bit more clarification over it. So obviously that's just going to dominate the news coming next week. All being well, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw just another sort of move up towards the upside, back up towards that 28,000 level. Obviously, if his health deteriorates, I'd expect us to see a larger sell-off. Depending on how bad it is, will determine sort of how big a move we'd see. It's also, there's loads of questions. Will this affect the election? We've got 2 more debates lined up. He's obviously quarantining for 14 days. Can't remember the exact date of the election. I think it might be the 15th of October. Don't know if anyone knows that. So it's gonna impact a lot of things around the election, and overall it's just adding uncertainty to the market.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be adding another subject, I suppose, that we now have to monitor on top of the stimulus package as well, from the US, and overall just absolutely everything that's going on. Just seems that we're getting more and more fundamentally driven coming into the elections now.
Which makes sense, I guess. So if you are trading, I'd say keep your eyes on the chart, on news as well, and keep those stops tight. Keep that risk management on point.
Yeah.
So upcoming, we've covered most of this stuff. So COVID had taken the back seat. It's I think this is going to again raise fears of, especially in the US. I don't think they've been taking the second wave very seriously, especially investors. They haven't really. I don't think it's really affected the markets as much as it should have. We still haven't seen a vaccine. It's not, it's not here yet. But so I think COVID is going to come back into the limelight a bit. Also, you've got more uncertainty around the election. So lots to look out for. And how bad will COVID be for Trump?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the overall markets anyway, in the US stock market, you didn't know that we were experiencing the economic issues that we are, as well as COVID, you would think that we was just in a great booming market, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you'd look at it and think, okay, we had a recession and the market's recovered fine.
Yeah. However, we haven't recovered yet.
No, so it's interesting times. It makes for great volatility. It makes for great trading opportunities. It's exciting times, but I think risk management is key in these times. You can get caught out very quickly, especially if you're trying to target big moves. They can quickly go against you. So having those stop losses in place, keeping your risk management is.
Robin Hood traders, you've been warned. That's it.
Trading options. That's different.
Yeah. So thanks, Elliot. That's so much information there on the fundamentals of what's happened, what we are looking at happening in the markets, and what to keep an eye out on. I mean, God help you if you're a beginner and you're watching this video of what to keep an eye on. You're going to have post-it notes absolutely everywhere, aren't you? But, one of the tricks, just stay absolutely hooked on Twitter. Looking at those news feeds, you'll usually see it a lot. Actually, the announcement of Trump, of him having COVID, was on Twitter. So, definitely keep your eyes there on President Trump's Twitter account. It's probably where you're going to see any sort of updates. I don't know. Do you reckon we'll see a selfie of him with his breakfast doing really well? Who knows? We'll find out exactly how he's going to be getting on in the next sort of couple of weeks, guys. So that's our overall outlook of what we're looking for in the markets. Wish you the best of luck in your trading week, and stay tuned for next Sunday for our FX and forecast of what we expect to see in the next week. So take care, guys. Don't forget to thumbs up, comment and subscribe, and we will see you soon.
Yeah, and I think if there's any particular markets you want us to look at, jump in the comments and let us know.
Jump in the comments, jump on WhatsApp with the WhatsApp, chuck us a message. It comes directly to me, and we'll look to discuss it in one of the episodes.